at 8 o'clock. I know we're going to talk about this. Mikey C is going to go off, and I'm over it a little bit later. But the ability to flip channels in this day and age is.
Yeah, the inability to. Oh, hold on. You're tripping, man. That was probably 90 seconds. You didn't say nothing about the Knicks.
So I want to give credit
to this dude.
Want to give credit to the Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks.
And then we have a full slate of games on Sunday, including the Sunday night game between the Bears and 49ers, which is a big one. Monday Night Football, then, right here at ESPN, has the Rams. That's a big game because the Rams are in it, but they're in Atlanta. No offense to the Falcons, but it's a big. Raheem Morris kind of coaching for his job, so maybe it's a big game, Emmett, in that sense. But I wanted to talk about this Texans and Chargers game. I'm Aaron Goldhammer. He is Emmett Golden on Sportsmanlike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance, in for Evan Canty and Michelle. I know neither one of these teams is normally like front page news.
Right.
But, I mean, do you realize the Chargers are 11-4? This is the quietest 11-4 team that I've ever seen. So even though the Broncos have 13 wins, that division is not over. If the Chargers win both of their remaining games, the Chargers will be the AFC West champions, and the Broncos will be going on the road to start the playoff run. In the meantime, the hottest team in all of football is the Houston Texans, who have won 7 consecutive games heading into this game on Saturday. Who do you give the edge to? I know it's not two cowboy-level fan bases, but both of these teams need this game. And, Emmett, I think this will set up a playoff run for one of the two. I think one of the two could really go on a run.
I like the Texans in this one. Their defense, man, like it's – you know, if you're watching on TV, you see highlights of the Texans, all defensive highlights. You know, not a ton of, and I say that and they show a touchdown being thrown. But anyway, you know, just tons and tons.
Come on, TV,
work with defensive highlights. Yes, because they're that good. They're the best defense in the NFL.
See, and there goes Nico Collins on TV running into the end zone for a touchdown.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud throwing touchdown passes as soon as I talk about all the defensive highlights.
So here's my question about the Texan defense. Is it the best defense in the NFL this year, or are you projecting that defense is so good they could do what the 2000 Ravens did? They could do what the 85 Bears did, that the defense could carry them all the way on a Super Bowl run?
I'm not putting it there. Like, I got to see that happen before, you know, I could even acknowledge it, because that Ravens defense, that Bears defense, the two greatest defenses in NFL history.
And by the way, Hall of Famers
all over.
And the Texans have some really good players.
No doubt.
I'm not, you know,
they might become that.
Yes.
You know, and they maybe they are, and I'm just selling them short. I'll be late to that party, right? I'm not going to put that on them. They're the best defense in the NFL, that's for sure, and they can win games. And then you got a solid offense to go along with that defense.
Emmett, the difference between Houston and the second best defense in the league this year from points allowed, okay? And that, to heck with yards and all that other stuff, I want to know, how many points do you allow? To me, that is the biggest stat when you're trying to judge a defense. Very simple. They've allowed 249 points this year. The second place team is the Seattle Seahawks, who have allowed 279 points this year. They've allowed 30 fewer points than the second place team. That's the same as the difference, Emmett, between like the Seahawks and the 10th best defense in the league.
Yeah, and that's what makes sense. And the Seahawks are good defense.
Yeah.
You know,
you've got Seattle at 279. You've got Philly at 289. You've got the Rams at 299. You've got New England at 300. The Chargers are up there, 301.
Yeah, defense as well.
The Packers at 303. Denver at 308. Remember, Denver's actually played one more game than all those other teams because they happened to play last night. So really, Denver's defense is better than that. Just let the rest of the week shake out.
Right.
But my point is, you know, the difference between first and second is the same as the difference between like second and the halfway point of the league. They are that good, and they have not gotten a ton of run for it. I think they're going to have to score, though. I think their quarterback's going to have to play well, because the Chargers have a good defense, too. Emmett, it's not talked about very often. And I think C.J. Stroud's going to have a big game on the road if the Texans are going to go in there and win tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, my thing for the Texans is put pressure on Herbert. You know, Herbert, really good quarterback, can turn it over, though. He's thrown 12 interceptions this year. So if you can affect him, which I think they can, I think that is the roadmap to victory for the Texans is just get after Herbert.
Why do you think this Chargers run has been so quiet? Because I think if you asked a typical fan, they'd assume that Denver's won the division already and, like, locked up the #1 seed already.
Yeah, the Broncos, the Patriots, the Jags. That's why I think what the Chargers have done has been so under the radar. I think people have expected the Chargers to be pretty good. You know, Super Bowl contender, I don't know about that, but to be pretty good, and they've been pretty good. We've been surprised by the Broncos. We've been surprised by the Patriots. We've been surprised by the Jags. I don't know if the Chargers being 11-4 is a surprise. It has happened quietly, but I'm not necessarily, like, shocked that they're 11-4.
Emmett, looking at both the conferences, little disappointed. Almost all the playoff spots are sewn up.
Yeah.
There's one playoff spot available in the NFC, and it's the NFC South champ. You know, who's the champion of mediocre? Is it Tampa Bay or is it Carolina? You look at the AFC, the Chargers have clinched, the Bills have clinched. The Steelers might be clinching here tomorrow.
Right.
If the, I would assume without Lamar that the Packers are probably going to win. I just wish there was maybe a little bit more up in the air with a week to go, in many cases 2 weeks to go in the NFL season. All right. Up next, we will recap all of the big games.
To really quell these Russian bots from making nonsense claims. In all actuality, the biggest difference was the decimated secondary that we had. Our tight end, Laporta, and our backup tight end was hurt. So we actually did great compared to what we had to work with. It's just that none of our key players, our marquee players like Amon-Ra, Gibbs and Goff weren't hurt, so everybody's looking at like we still should have won.
Hang with me for a second because I want you to address this. Because last year you guys lost Aiden Hutchinson for the year. Like, don't teams have injuries every year? It's not like the Lions were the most injured team in the NFL. This is the nature of the sport. You're going to have some guys get banged up.
We were number 1 or 2 as far as injuries this year, and to have an entire secondary be injured, 3 out of the 4 starters for the entire season, that's ridiculous. Our backups even got injured this year. I'm not making any excuses, but Dan Campbell did great with what he had worked with on defense. Our offense, 1, maybe 2 were hurt, and that's why everybody still expects us to win. But there are 2 sides to the ball, offense and defense, and on defense, shell game the entire season.
Sure. I mean, look, there were a couple of games like that opener and like yesterday where you looked at the Lions and they just couldn't move the ball, which was amazing because they have so many good players on offense. And, they did for lamenting losses in the secondary, as Emmett keeps pointing out, they did change who was calling the plays halfway through the year.
Yeah, and it's not as bad as I think you're seeing on Twitter from these Knitted Kitty 72485. I don't think it's that way. Look, yeah, they had injuries. Every team has injuries. It was a down year. It wasn't a catastrophe. It wasn't embarrassing. It was a down year. They underperformed. I don't look at if Detroit had 5 wins right now, okay, I'd be with you. I'd be like, Dan Campbell failed his team.
Can I stat you? This is not Russian bot stat. This is a legitimate stat.
You sure about that?
Yes. Okay. I think, not really. But
okay.
I think so. Stats and info, please be with me.
Yeah, please back us up.
Dan Campbell with Ben Johnson, 36-15. Mm-hmm. Dan Campbell without Ben Johnson, 11-21-1. Ooh.
Sure.
Who was the real brains of the operation?
I mean, we can say that right now. Let's see exactly what the what the Chicago Bears do. Are they going to run and just go to the Super Bowl easily because Ben Johnson is a savant? And maybe that's the case. I don't know. I can't say it's not. But all I know is all of a sudden is Dan Campbell's not a good coach, and his fire thing is completely ridiculous.
All right. Ghetto Gronk. Do you trust Ghetto Gronk?
Absolutely not. Cool name, but I don't trust Ghetto Gronk. No.
He says